Well, the reason why there's not many people doing it is because it is very cold out. It's usually January to, May. So the weather's not nice. So a lot of times you'll be fishing from a little kayak, a little john boat, a little bass boat, down some brackish river. And you just have to keep on trying. That's when I'm really into it, I will take my truck and try every spot. And you may get nothing, or you may kill them at one spot, and then next year, you won't even see a fish. Well, what I have here is a 4.5-foot ultralight spinning rod setup. The smaller the better, that's all I can say. You want nothing heavier than 4-pound test line. 2 to 4-pound test mono. I like using mono. I'm sure there's some people that want to use braid, but I've been using this forever, never had a problem. So what I also like using is small baits for jigging. This really works good to catch the bigger fish. When it's not that nice of a day and you have a lot of ripples on the water, I like to use jigs. But when it's very nice out and there's no wind, then I'll go to bait. Bait works great. So there's 2 ways I'll go for bait. This is my normal setup. These are just corks so I don't get hooked. This is a number 4 hook. Then I put a split shot on the bottom, and I'll bait this with, the best bait is shrimp. Second best is nightcrawler. And then little killies will work very well, live killies. So I will cast this out, leave the curls in the string, and watch the curls on a nice day. As soon as you see a little tick, set the hook. But it's so little, and you can't do that on a windy day. So I also use a float in the same setup, which works great also. But just with a little weight and a couple hooks, it could be a single hook. You don't have to use 2 hooks. I like to put a worm and shrimp on the same rig to see what they're hitting. When I'm rigging up for a white perch, I will never use a leader. I will tie it straight to the line. There's no reason to use a leader. Sometimes I'll catch small striped bass, which are pretty big on this rig. 16 to 18 inches while I'm fishing for white perch. It never breaks, so there's no reason for it. This rod actually is a rod that is very soft. I've been using this actual rod for 45 years. Still have the same rod. I redid the guides, but it's the same rod. And thousands of perch with this setup. I found that this gulp with the approximately 2-inch smelt, to me, is my number 1 jig I would go to. This, I've caught more big perch on this than anything else. Which I don't have here to show you is a marabou jig, which also works very good. Any of these, this is very similar to that, works the same. This is smaller when you got smaller fish around. And I'll take these jigs and load them up with shrimp. I'll put 3 or 4 grass shrimp on them, which I catch down at the docks. And I'll load them up on there and just cast that out with nothing but my line and that jig, and the same method. Watch for the little tick in the line, set the hook, and you have a fish. Well, the number 1 piece of this puzzle is the bait. And getting the bait is also not that easy. So you want to get grass shrimp, little killies, grass shrimp, and any little fish that you can find. So what I use is this net, which to me is the best net out there. You can rub it on the bottom. This will never fray because the metal goes right to the edge. And all you do is go down to the dock, of course, with a longer stick on the end of it, and scrape right near the docks. You're going to get a bunch of sand and rocks and some weeds in it. Pull it up, empty it out, and you pick out all the little shrimp, the tiniest ones, whatever you can get, you pick out. And you may have to put 3, 4 shrimp on a hook, but That's all you need. That's the number one bait. This is what makes it hard to get the bait. You put in a half hour, you'll have enough bait for the day. Well, these fish you would find in any brackish water along the coast. I like to look on the map, and I just follow a pond to the bay or the North Shore, and I'll try it. I'll just go down to it, see if I can access it on land, try some spots. Out in the Hampton, there's plenty of spots to try. I'll also, if I can get in there with my kayak, I'll do it. If I can get into my little bass boat, we'll do it. But there's not a spot on the island that has brackish water that I haven't caught. The depths of the water that I fish, I've caught them in 1.5 feet of water and killed them. Pulled out 20 big ones out of 1.5 feet of water right in front of me to 15 feet of water. It really doesn't matter. It's where they are at the time. I've caught them, put a string on them and a float and let them swim around and kept on casting, and I killed them that way. And they went everywhere. It didn't matter. There was no set hole that you would have to look. You just have to try and fan cast everywhere and have the patience to actually put the time in to find them. So this is my favorite rod for jigging. It's small. It's got some, fairly fast action. So I'll cast this as far as I can cast it, just like anyone else would do. I will let it sink and hit the bottom. That's a must for me. And I'll just give it little taps like this, and then reel. Little tap and reel. Little tap and usually bang. That's all it takes. There's nothing special. Again, you gotta put the bait where the fish are. There's nothing else I can tell you. One thing I can say is you need to put your time in. There's many times when I was young and I would go up and down Montauk Highway, Merrick Road, try every spot and get nothing. And hear the stories of how people killed them, filled buckets up. But eventually, once you hit them and you start going back to those spots, you start getting the courage up, and that's it, you're in. Once you figure it out, it's a lifetime, and they're great eating. But I would recommend not keeping every one. You should keep, enough for your dinner. Don't fill your freezer or sell them. People do it commercially to sell, which is not a good idea.